Hey logo designers, this is Michael from the Logo Package, and today I'm going to be showing you the ins and outs of organizing fonts using Logo Package Forge in Adobe Illustrator. Logo Package Forge will collect all of the fonts on your computer's local system and display them to you in the extension window. When you open Logo Package Forge for the first time, you should be on the Logotype tab and in the All Fonts set. We have some default sets at the top of the left sidebar. We have all fonts, favorites, and hidden. And then below that is where you can create user-defined sets to create any organizational structure that you want for your fonts. Let's start by looking at the default sets. All fonts is pretty self-explanatory. Every set will show a number next to the set name, and that's how many fonts are currently in the set. The fonts from any set will be displayed on the right side, and you can scroll through if there are lots of fonts. So this is the all fonts set, and it has every single font that we have not hidden from this list, and it is listed in alphabetical order. At any point in any one of these sets, if you want to look for a specific font, you can use the search at the top of the font list. For example, I may want to find Montserrat, so I begin typing and it will display the fonts that match your search query. To remove the search filtering, we just delete the search query and all of our fonts will return to the font list. Every font in the font list has a star icon, and if you click this star icon, you can add this font to your favorite set. So if we look at the favorites, every single one of them is going to have a star, and this is a place for you to save your favorite fonts, but fonts that you look at for almost every project or you always want to have quick access to. Adding a font to your favorites is very simple. I'll go back to the all fonts list. And let's say I want to favorite Adobe Clean because I use it for all of my extension UI. I'll just click the star icon. The star icon is filled in on the font list item now, and it has also been added to our favorites. The number has increased from 7 to 8, and we can see it right here in the favorites list. If you want to remove a font from the favorites list, just click the favorite icon again. The number will go down, the font will be removed from the favorites list, and the star icon will return to being an outline. As I mentioned before, any fonts that we do not want to see in our font list can be hidden. So let's find a font that everybody wants to hide. Let's look for Comic Sans. So I have found Comic Sans right here, and I want to remove it from my list because I never want to see it again. So I will click the eyeball icon, and you can see there's an animation and a toast that tells us that the font has been hidden. And we can go to the hidden fonts now, and I'll actually just do a search. Well, I'm not too far away. So we can see that we now have Comic Sans in the hidden list. So it doesn't show up in all fonts, it doesn't show up in favorites, and it won't show up in any of our user-defined sets. But if we decide we've made a mistake and Comic Sans is actually the perfect font for our next project, then we can come back in and click the eyeball icon with a cross through it, and this will show the font again. So it's removed from the hidden list, and if we go back to all fonts, we can see that it has returned. I think Comic Sans has received enough hate, so I'm going to leave it in my list because you never know. Now let's take a look at user-defined sets. To create a new set, all we have to do is click the New Set button in the left sidebar, and we are given a new set, and we can immediately change its name. I'm going to name this set Fluffy, and now I'm going to organize some fonts by putting them in the Fluffy set. So I'll come back to the all fonts set, and I'm going to look for my Fluffy fonts. I have a few fonts in mind for this Fluffy set, so I'm going to do a search for the first font, which is Kansas, New Kansas. It's a rounded kind of fluffy font. So in order to add a font to a custom set, all you do is click the font and then drag it into the set. Now, when we go to the Fluffy set, we'll see that New Kansas has been added. I'm going to return to the All Fonts set to add some more fonts to this set. The next two fonts I want to add start with MA, so I'll do a search, but I could have also scrolled down the list until I found them. You can add more than one font to a set at a time. you just have to Control or Command click. Now I have selected multiple fonts and I can drag them both at the same time into the Fluffy set, and you can see that it has increased from 1 font to 3 fonts. And now if we go into Fluffy, we'll see all 3 of the fonts that we have added to this set. You may have noticed that the icons on the font in the font list change between the default sets, like all fonts, where we have an eyeball on the right side, to an X in the user-defined sets. The X allows you to remove a font or its styles from a specific set. In this case, I have decided that New Kansas is more friendly than Fluffy when I compare it to my other Fluffy fonts. So in order to remove this font from the Fluffy set, I will just click the X icon, and you can see we get another notification that tells us it has been removed. Our number has dropped from 3 to 2, and the New Kansas font is no longer in the Fluffy set. The remaining typefaces in this set only have 1 style, so I'm going to take you to another set, Tech, where we have a font called Montserrat, which has many different styles. In order to access those styles, we can click the drop-down arrow on the left side of the list item here, and now we will get a list of all of the styles of that typeface. By default, when you drag a font into a set, it will enable the font that is closest to regular. Now, that is not always going to be completely accurate because we are using CSS to identify that style as opposed to some sort of built-in feature or data from the font file itself. So in this case, when I dragged Montserrat into the text set, bold was what was determined to be closest to the regular style. Now, bold is white, and all of the other fonts are gray. And also, the list item here has an X at the end, and every other list item has a plus. So in order to add more styles to a font, you just need to click the plus button. So maybe I want to turn on some of the other styles here. As I click plus, they are added to the top of the list, and they are shown in white with an X icon. If I do not want these styles to be included in the set, then I can click the X icon to remove them. This ability to add styles and remove them is not particularly important to the font organization itself. Anytime you drag a font in, all of the styles will be available for you to look at. But the styles that are active are the styles which will be used to generate logos. It's also important to notice that in the default sets, you cannot add or remove styles because these default sets simply show you what the font contains. But when we are in a set, you can add or remove styles because we are using them to generate logos. And therefore, when you add these styles, it will increase the count inside of the set. So if I add black, we go from 3 to 4. And if I add black italic, we go from 4 to 5. This is important because a custom typeset can only contain a maximum of 32 fonts. And that is because if we allowed users to add tons and tons of fonts, then when they tried to generate logos, there may not even be enough space on the pasteboard for all of those variations. So we have limited the total number of fonts that can be included in any set. This includes their styles as well, to 32. You can use the 3-dot icon on any set to access a few options. You can rename the set and change its name. You can duplicate the set. Maybe you have 2 very similar projects and you want to start with the same fonts that you had in another project, but perhaps add or remove some things. And then you can delete the set, which will remove it from the list. Most of these actions can only be accessed through this menu. However, if you want to rename a set, you can always double-click on the name and modify the name without using the menu. Lastly, you may want to preview the way a certain font looks with certain words. So I'll go back to the All Fonts list. By default, if we are accessing any of these fonts sets, then we are in the Logotype tab. you can see that the Logo Mark tab does not show you any fonts. On the Logotype tab, anything that we type into this first text line will be previewed in all the fonts below. So I'm going to type in a fun word that kind of shows off all of the qualities of a particular typeface, hamburgerfons. And now we can see that we have this preview, and we can scroll through the list and see what our preferred word is going to look like in all of these fonts. And that's pretty much everything you need to know about organizing fonts using Logo Package Forge. Thanks for watching.